Blending modes are awesome. And if you've been watching the rest of this course, you know I'm pretty much addicted to them. The ability to mix two layers together based on different properties like luminosity, color, or saturation really goes a long way. And I find that working with 2 or 3 or even 4 layers can create new, interesting patterns. It all comes down to how you mix them up. Let's start from the bottom up. I'll turn off this top layer and select this interim. What I'd like to do is mix this layer with the layer below. Now, if you don't see the modes here, you can toggle the switches in modes. If that's not visible, just right-click and from the columns, make sure that you turn them on and you can see the modes permanently. I'm going to turn that off temporarily and just use the toggle switch down here to save a bit of space. From the pop-up list, you could choose the blending mode and how things mix together. Different modes will give you different combinations. The multiply mode here made a nice, rich, dark background. Rather than preserving the original range of colors, multiplying over this reddish-purplish image created a nice, rich background. And I like that a lot. But I'm free to experiment with different choices from the pop-up list. And you'll see that something brighter like lighten takes that same rich, dark red tones and makes the previous background brighter. You can select that layer, and using the same shortcut we explored in Photoshop, Shift+, you could step through your available blending modes. And each one is going to give you different results as those layers mix. Not all are going to look great, but maybe you want the subtle color, which just takes the color of one layer and maps it to the other. Or perhaps something a little more intense, like soft light, which will take both color and lightness values and mix the two together. Want to go even brighter? Try something like add, and everything gets more intense. Remember, the dividing lines here tell you what's going to happen. Everything between these lines will get darker. Everything between here will get lighter. And everything else will mix the things together by overlaying the results or blending them with lightness values, or especially things like hue or color or saturation. The dividing lines make it pretty easy, and I usually avoid difference because these are much more for specialty things like mattes and composites, but the creative ones are darken, lighten, overlay, or special modes based upon the lightness or color of the overlaid layer. Remember, as you pick these, the shortcut of Shift+ is a great way to explore different combinations. When you find something you like and it looks pretty good, invoke a RAM preview so you see how it looks over time. And this gives you a nice idea of what's going to happen. I really like how those two layers are mixing together. I'm seeing both color and texture combining for a more complex background. Let's add the last layer. In this case, it's the liquid pores. And I'll try something really gentle, like a soft light. Now that liquid is blending in, creating a bit more of an organic displacement as things move through. I like the bubbles and the energy, but it's still subtle. That feels pretty good. Let's make this overall background a little longer by choosing the composition settings here. And I'll dial in a new duration, in this case of 35 seconds, and click OK. Once I've done that, I need to make sure that these layers are long enough, and they do appear to be so. As I drag through, I can get a good idea of what's happening, but I'd say all in all, I'm very satisfied with the way I've combined the layers. The only problem is going to be that it doesn't loop cleanly. So as we play this here, when it gets to the end and jumps back to the beginning, it's going to be abrupt. Sure, the texture is nice and subtle and the motion is very fluid and gentle, but as it approaches the end point, it's going to be jarring. This is because the first frame and the last frame are not a clean loop, and so we'll need to get around that with a split. But all in all, the color, the intensity, and the overall energy is working. All I want to get rid of is when we get to this endpoint here, I would prefer a seamless jump, rather than the abrupt one you're about to see. Yep, definitely distracting. So let's do something to fix that.